We've had some excellent weather for staying at home and doing a bit of crochet. I'm making a cute little amigurumi octopus today, and I'll start by telling you how this video is structured so you know what to expect. I'll outline what skills you need for the project, then I'll outline the supplies that you need for this project, then cover some key principles, and then I'll show you the actual process. I'll be using US crochet terms throughout this video. If you didn't know, the US and UK crochet terms are different, so it's usually quite helpful to know which terms are being used. Wherever possible, I'll try to show things reasonably slowly and clearly the first time or two that I do something, and then I'll speed up the video for subsequent times so that you don't get bored. There will be lots of timestamps in the description as well, so that you can skip to relevant parts of the video if you need to. Let's talk about the necessary skills. As I said before, I'm using US crochet terms. The first skill that you need is the single crochet stitch. For single crochet and amigurumi specifically, I prefer the look of yarn under rather than yarn over, but I don't always find it practical, especially with the yarn I'll be using today, as it tends to split and it can be difficult to grab with the hook sometimes. You'll probably see a combination of yarn under and yarn over in this video, but you do what you can or what you prefer. You also need to be able to make slip stitches, and you need to be able to chain or make crochet chains. You need to be able to make a magic ring or a magic circle. I prefer the double loop kind, and I have a separate video on my channel showing how to do it. Check out the link in the description. Another skill that you need for this project is increases and decreases. I'll be doing invisible decreases as part of this project, and I have a separate video on my channel showing how to do that. So if you don't know how to do invisible decreases, they are quite worthwhile learning to do. Check out that video. Some very minimal freestyle embroidery skills are going to be needed for this project as well, for decorating the face of the amigurumi octopus, because eyelashes and a smile are essential. Supplies. You're going to need some yarn and a suitable size crochet hook. There is nothing particularly impressive about the yarn that I'll be using today. It's 8-ply cotton, and this particular yarn tends to split and be a little bit difficult to work with, but this is what I've got. You can use whatever yarn and hook works well for you. I'll be using a 2.2mm hook. I'll be using safety eyes for this particular octopus, but you can see I made 2 octopuses before, and each of them has different eyes. One has embroidered eyes and another one has needle felted eyes. So again, you can do what you like. For making the smile and the eyelashes, I'll be using some embroidery floss and a needle with a large eye. For closing the opening after making the final round of crochet stitches, I'll be using a thick and blunt tapestry needle. For toy stuffing or filling, whatever you want to call it, I'll be using whatever was inside of the cushion on my couch. If you have specialized toy stuffing, that must be nice. Key principles will be presented by this amigurumi bird who has some strong opinions. The first principle that I'd like to talk to you about is in regard to counting stitches. I'm aware that some people really struggle with counting crochet stitches. They're already using stitch markers and stitch counters, they've redone a row twice, but they're still having trouble. Perhaps they have 23 or 25 stitches instead of 24 somewhere, and it's stressing them out, sometimes to the point of giving up on crochet and amigurumi. I think that those people might potentially benefit from a technique that I like to call "that looks about right." 23 stitches instead of 24? That looks about right. 25 instead of 24? That looks about right. Try to make up for it wherever makes sense and continue with the project. You're not building clocks. You're making amigurumi. And before you say, oh, but the octopus's head won't be perfectly symmetrical, remember that 1990s supermodels didn't have perfectly symmetrical heads and people still thought they were beautiful. Why do you feel your octopus needs to have a more symmetrical head than a 90s supermodel? Be kind to your art. Learn to appreciate imperfect beauty and find a flattering 3/4 camera angle. A warm smile and lovely eyelashes is all this octopus needs to look cute. This concludes the first principle, the principle of that looks about right. The second principle is that for a smooth process and a predictable result, it's helpful to be able to visualize the overall order of construction before you start. So what construction order are we planning for this octopus amigurumi? This octopus amigurumi starts its existence from a magic ring that is going to be at the top of the octopus's head, right in the middle. Then a little pancake-like shape is crocheted. The pancake shape will be the top of the octopus's head. Once we've made that pancake big enough, we'll crochet the sides of the octopus's head, then the legs. We'll add safety eyes and stuffing, and then we'll close the bottom part. Once that's done, we'll embroider a smile and some eyelashes. Principle 3. You can choose how you join the rounds. Either slip stitch and chain 1, which is what I'll do when going from round 1 to round 2, or by crocheting in the spiral, which is what I'll do for the subsequent rounds. If you would like me to cover the pros and cons of these options in another video, please let me know in the comments. Alright, let's start to crochet. First, I'm making a double loop magic ring. This is my preferred method of making a magic ring, but if you've got a different method that works for you, you can do that. If you're interested in my method and you would like a slow and detailed tutorial, I have a separate video on my channel and you can find a link in the description. Now I'm making 6 single crochet stitches into the magic ring. I find it convenient to put a stitch marker into the top of the first stitch that goes into the magic ring. This makes it easier to find it later. Closing the magic ring. I'm going to close the round by making a slip stitch into the last stitch of the first round, and then I will chain 1. For round 2, I'm going to make 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch. At the end of round 2, we should have 12 stitches. And just a reminder that there are timestamps in the description, so if you want to jump to the next round, you can. Starting round 3, I'm switching from crocheting in joined rounds to crocheting in a spiral. I'll be making an increase every second stitch, and at the end of round 3 we should have 18 stitches. The reason I'm switching from crocheting in joined rounds to crocheting in a spiral partway through the project is so that you can see that both options exist. Perhaps sticking to one method throughout the whole project would be more logical and aesthetically consistent, but you may be relieved to see that switching the method after round 2 did not set off any apocalyptic events. For round 4, I'm making an increase into every third stitch. At the end of round 4, we should have 24 stitches. At the end of round 4, I am happy with the size of the tiny pancake that I created, and I'm ready for it to start losing its flatness. So for round 5, I'm doing a single crochet stitch into every stitch. At the end of round 5, we should have 24 stitches. We will be making no increases in round 6. That means a single crochet stitch into every stitch, and at the end of round 6 we should still have 24 stitches. In round 7, we'll make a decrease in every third stitch. At the end of round 7, we should have 18 stitches. I quite like doing invisible decreases, and there is a separate tutorial on my channel. I've put a link in the description. Round 8 is the round that the octopus's legs grow from. At the end of the previous round, I ended up with 18 stitches. 8 legs need to be distributed across the stitches as evenly as possible. As you can see, I made a diagram with what I believe is the best way to distribute the legs. I would suggest you pause the video at some stage and inspect the diagram. It doesn't follow a conventional crochet pattern, style or format, but I wanted it to really make sense visually. Basically, there is a single crochet stitch made into every stitch of the previous round, but 8 of them have legs growing from them. The legs are formed by chaining 12 away from the body of the octopus and then slip stitching to return back to the body of the octopus. If you would like the legs to be shorter or longer, you can use a different number of chains and then slip stitch until you get back to the round. It doesn't have to be perfect, and this round is a good candidate for the "that looks about right" technique. For round 9 and round 10, we decrease every third or so stitch. This round is another great candidate for the "that looks about right" technique. I'll be installing safety eyes now. When using safety eyes, it's important to actually remember to install them before putting the stuffing in and closing the opening in the bottom. It may sound super obvious, but it's actually quite easy to forget to, so don't forget to. Now I'll put the stuffing in. As I mentioned, this particular stuffing came from a cushion on my couch, but maybe you have fancy stuffing, and if so, you can totally use that. For round 11 and maybe even round 12 if you can, repeat single crochet 2 together until the end of the round, or go as far as practical. Now I'll just fasten off the end of the yarn, weave in and secure it, and also I'll try to fill in any tiny residual holes that bother me. Once I feel the end of the yarn is all secure, I can snip off what's left of it. Now I can finally embroider a smile. The smile is complete when it looks about right. Once I'm happy with the smile, I can embroider some eyelashes. Guess what? The octopus is now complete and completely, gloriously cute. If you were making an octopus at the same time as me and also have a gloriously cute octopus, take a moment to admire it now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.